What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Friday, March 27th. LSU and Kentucky at Alex Box Stadium tonight at 6:30. LSU and Duke in the Sweet 16 in Sacramento, California tonight at 9 p.m. And we've got some details on Will Wade's contract and the introductory press conference and all of that info. So let's start with the games tonight. LSU and Kentucky tonight. Kentucky ace Jackson Jelkin on the mound tonight. Fastball, breaking ball, sinker guy, high 90s, high velocity, long, lanky guy. He will be opposed by Kason Evans. Kentucky is a typical Nick Mingione Kentucky team. They don't hit a lot of home runs. They have a pretty good starting rotation. They run the bases very well. They bunt. They move people over. They bunt for hits. It will be very important for LSU to make plays defensively and to pitch well and not give out a ton of free passes. Quite frankly, this isn't a great matchup this weekend for LSU. The things that Kentucky can do on offense were some of the same things that Oklahoma did last week, and LSU had some trouble with that. And I think Kentucky's pitching 1 through 3 is overall better than what Oklahoma's was. It's important that LSU get off on the right foot, and it's very important that LSU win this game tonight. If LSU has to go on the road the next 2 weeks to Tennessee and Ole Miss, losing another series and being, say, 3-6 in the SEC, the path to 16 or 17 wins, the math starts to get a little more difficult. If LSU can win 2 out of 3 and be 4-5, and play a little better, the thought process being maybe you could go 3-3 in those Tennessee and Ole Miss games, and maybe you could be 7-8 in the league at the halfway point, and maybe make a run second half of the year. So 6:30 at Alex Box tonight. Kason Evans versus Jackson Jelkin in what I expect will be a nice environment at the box tonight. And certainly Kentucky swept Alabama the first weekend, and then they went to Oxford last week and lost 2 out of 3. So Kentucky's on a back-to-back road swing here, and LSU's on the second weekend in a row of playing at home. Those things would seem to favor LSU. LSU and Duke tonight in the Sweet 16. LSU beat Duke 93-77 back in early December in the SEC ACC Challenge at Cameron Indoor at Duke. LSU was able to win that game. Duke is 23-2 since that game. They started off a little rocky in November and December, and then they had a very long winning streak, and they are a completely different team now. LSU is an 8.5-point favorite tonight. LSU, of course, has the nation's top scoring offense. Duke is, I believe, 17th nationally in scoring defense. That is where I think this game, is won. Can LSU get out? Can they run? Can they play at their pace and make this game a high-scoring game? Or can Duke bog this thing down, turn LSU over, try to keep LSU off the boards, try to keep LSU out of transition, and maybe slow this game down and have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter? I like LSU tonight. I like the way LSU's been playing. I like the way LSU played a lot last weekend. I know they overwhelmed Jacksonville, and I know Texas Tech was also probably not the best 4 seed around, but I'm sorry, the best 7 seed around. But I just think LSU's played so well lately and really all season on offense. I like LSU to win this game. I think UCLA will win too, and I think that will set up the Titanic matchup in the Elite Eight between LSU and UCLA on Sunday. LSU is an 8.5-point favorite tonight. As I said, that game 9 Central on ESPN from Sacramento. So let's talk about the big news in the college basketball world, of course, which is Will Wade back at LSU. He got a 7-year contract. There are a few things that I want to mention, though. So As was reported and expected, Heath Schroyer will be Will Wade's direct report inside of LSU's athletic department. He's going to be I believe they're calling it the executive associate AD, and he's going to be in charge of basketball. It didn't say whether or not he would be in charge of women's basketball. My guess is Kim Mulkey will still be reporting to Verge Osbury. Um, Will Wade did not get a substantial raise to come here. He'll be making about $3.6 million, which is not that much different than what Matt McMahon made. It'll probably wind up being bottom three salary in the SEC. So when Will Wade, there is a Monday press conference at noon in the PMAC, open to the public. When Will Wade comes to the podium on Monday, I fully expect him to say that LSU was the only job he would leave NC State for, and I believe him to be telling the truth. I think the alignment and the people that were involved here is the reason why he's back. I think his love and his family's love for LSU and Louisiana in general is the reason why he's back. And I think he might be one of, if not the only coach in recent memory who can actually say he's leaving for a job because he wants to be at that place and not because he's going to make more money. Now, let me say this about Will Wade's contract. There are a lot of incentives for winning the SEC and going to the NCAA tournament and each round of the NCAA tournament, coach of the year, all that kind of stuff. He can make more money if he's successful. That is in most coaches' contracts, though. The one thing that I think will be beneficial for Will Wade here in Baton Rouge is his brand. That General Wade, that boot up, that Will Wade brand just doesn't exist anywhere else outside of Louisiana and outside of Baton Rouge. I fully expect a cardboard cutout in every Raising Cane's and billboards and commercials. And, he is going to come back here, especially in the short term, as a conquering hero. And I fully expect on Monday this to be a press conference unlike any other. I expect it to be highly well attended. I expect it to be raucously happy. And I expect him to express his love and admiration and desire to be at LSU and to make LSU a winning basketball program. A lot of people asked me yesterday, why would he leave NC State? NC State's a better basketball job. I just sort of answered that, right? I don't think he would have left if the alignment weren't here, if Governor Landry wasn't involved, if Dr. Wade Roos wasn't here, if Lee Mallett wasn't here, if Heath Schroyer wasn't here. In terms of the roster, it had been reported by someone on the NC State side of things that LSU had promised Will Wade up to $15 million for a roster. Matt Moscona here in Baton Rouge, local reporter Locked On LSU, has reported that that is absolutely false. No dollar amount was given as part of the negotiations to bring Will Wade to Baton Rouge. LSU spent about $9 million, I think, on their basketball roster last year. Do I fully expect that number to end up between $12 and $15 million? I do. That's my opinion. I have a hunch, though, that LSU is going to give him roughly the same $9 million, and it's going to be up to him and Heath Schroyer to go out and raise the additional money, but I don't think they'll have any trouble doing that. I think this is going to be as loving and as exciting and as, I don't even know the word for it, kumbaya, as anybody can be, right? I think this first go-round for Will Wade in his second tenure in Baton Rouge is just going to be awesome. I think everybody's going to want to buy tickets. I think everybody who's a booster is going to want to donate to the roster. I think everybody's going to want to help Will Wade in whatever way they can. And I think everybody now, all of a sudden, wants LSU basketball to be good again. And LSU basketball is going to be good again. Let's make no mistake about this. They're not going to be 3-15 in the SEC next year, and I don't know a single person who's going to be on the roster, but I know who the coach is. And I know what he did in the 5 years that he was here before, and I know what he did at Chattanooga, and I know what he did at VCU, and I know what he did at McNeese, and I know what he did at NC State. They're not going to be bad. Now, we'll see what kind of team he builds. Is it all out of the transfer portal? Do they keep any of the high school recruits? Does he bring in any new high school recruits? We'll have plenty of time to dive into all of that. I don't know any of it. I bet you he has an idea, though. And my suspicion is they will have 3 or 4 mercenaries who will come in and play and make this team good right off the jump. And look, are you expecting LSU to be in the NCAA basketball tournament next year? Should you expect that? No. But I'll bet you Will Wade expects that. And I don't really think there's any reason why they can't be in the NCAA tournament next year. I just don't know if that's going to be the stated goal. But I will tell you this. The interest level is going to be off the charts. The roster is going to be better. The PMAC is not going to be a morgue. The merchandise sales, if LSU leans into this, that opportunity could be tremendous, right? The General Wade stuff. I started giving away General Wade shirts to the first 1,000 students who show up to the PMAC on Monday. This is going to be something that is no longer neglected. Men's basketball has been neglected at LSU, and it had been bypassed and surpassed by women's basketball, by gymnastics, by the same sports that share the PMAC with men's basketball. Those days are over. Will Wade's not going to let that happen, and I fully expect that will begin in earnest on Monday at the press conference. We will be back tomorrow to recap both games, the women's basketball game tonight in the Sweet 16 and the baseball game tonight against Kentucky. And look, before I get out of here, let's make no bones about it. LSU needs to win this baseball game tonight. It would be very difficult to see LSU winning this series without winning the game tonight. And I fully believe LSU needs to win this series or the math starts to get a little dicey. We'll be back to cover it all. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your games tonight. If you're out and about, please do it safely. Have a beverage for me. And as always, be good to one another. Boot up. And always, 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 go Tigers.